Hey everyone, Kevin Kim here once again for Lender Lounge. Today we've got a very, very, very special guest, my friend and now partner, Melissa Martorella. A lot of you know her. Thank you for joining us here today, Melissa.
Of course, happy to be here.
Of course. We're going to do this. We're going to have fun today. So, guys, I for our audience, I want everyone to know, first of all, if you haven't seen the press release, we just made Melissa partner. It's been a long time coming. She deserved it years ago, in my personal opinion. And now she's my partner. And, first female non-founding partner, youngest partner ever. And frankly, been my partner in crime or in work, I guess you can call it, here at Jurasi for, 5 years now? 5 years now?
Yep.
And I've been here 8, so it's a better part of my time here. So definitely someone that I consider a friend, but also look up to in a lot of respects. So today we're going to have a little bit of fun. First off, before we get started, Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, who don't know you, and give us some information about where you come from and how you came to be here at Jurasi.
Awesome. Happy to do so. So like Kevin said, I am an attorney here and now partner at Jurasi. I manage the firm's banking and finance department. That was also a new thing this year. Very exciting. But yeah, I guess a little bit more about how I got here. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I made the move to California for law school, decided, it would be fun to try to see if I liked it out here as much as I did when I visited friends. Decided I loved it and just kind of stuck around, stumbled upon Jurasi in the private lending industry. And, it's been amazing ever since. I've gotten to work with Kevin, Nima, Dennis, Anthony, the other partners here. They've really mentored me and supported me through this. Learned a lot from them, little different things from each one of them. So it's been a real pleasure to work here and, be part of this team.
And this is your first job out of law school too.
It is.
That's very rare for attorneys. I was at three different law firms before I joined Jurasi. This is your first one.
Yep.
Right out of UCI Law. I remember
I drank
you got
the
your
Kool-Aid.
bar results. Yeah. You drank the Kool-Aid, the Jurasi juice, and I still remember the day you got your bar results, and even then I was just like, this kid's gonna make it here. As long as we're still around, and we still are. So today's format's gonna be a little bit different. For our audience, the ones who watched the episode where I interviewed my partners Nima and Anthony, we did the same format. So I reached out to a couple of Melissa's clients and some of her teammates and asked them to submit some questions. I have my own, but we really want to highlight these questions because, Melissa has a very great relationship with a lot of her clients. One of the things that I really greatly respect her for, and they gave us some really interesting ones. And so this is an opportunity for our listeners to really get to know you a little bit better. This may get a little bit.
I'm nervous.
All right, so let's just open it up. Let's just go right into it. No, I mean, listen, there's a couple things. We'll start easy. We'll start business related, right?
Perfect.
So this question comes from our friends over at Arixa Capital. Shout out to Arixa. Christine Sawyer. We all love Christine Sawyer. She's the best. She sent a question. If you could train your clients, which you can, what would you train them to do differently? And remember, everyone, Melissa manages our banking and finance team. So there's a lot of things that you guys should hear about this because she's dealing with your guys' business on a day-to-day basis.
That's a great question. And I would expect nothing less from Christina. She's amazing. I think what I would probably do if I could train clients a little better is probably get them to start just thinking early or roping us in early. A lot of times, it doesn't happen on every deal, but a lot of times people will reach out and be like, we got to close this tomorrow, like help, draft the docs, all of that. And that's fine. We can do that. But oftentimes there are issues that happen. There's entity document issues for borrowers and guarantors. There's preliminary title report issues. Like there's just problems. And in that rush to close very quickly, the clients are freaking out and just trying to push it through. And it's like, you have to slow down and stop. And so I guess, it would be wonderful if they could learn how to review those things too. But that's really what we are here for. And so I guess my advice if I could train clients a little better, it's to reach out sooner, because we can oftentimes get ahead of things that otherwise slow down your deals. We can kind of issue spot and manage that up front. So that would be a huge thing if people just reached out a little.
Right, and practically speaking, if you're doing a doc request last minute and you've got all these defects in your file, and your attorney comes back and tells you, hey, these are problematic, these are a no-go, you can't close this deal until these are all resolved. Well, you just possibly jeopardize your relationship with your borrower because you promised X date and turns out the package was incomplete. So, we don't want you going forward doing those things. And so, it's a win-win for everyone if they get ahead of it a little bit, right? So,
yeah. And even, if there's problems too, it's one of those things like, the borrower's defaulting or something's going awry in the loan transaction, just reach out, because a lot of times it's like, if you tell us right away, there's a very good strategy versus if it's something that's dragged on, you've communicated with the borrower a little bit, maybe given some things away, it gets a little bit harder to get involved, or makes the strategy a little bit harder, I should say. So I don't know, that would be a wonderful thing if just generally reach out early. Right. Because
unfortunately, we're in an industry full of entrepreneurs who are oftentimes procrastinators, and rightfully so. I think you're busy.
I get it.
I'm the worst. Let me ask you this though: what's the most kind of common issue, right? When you get these rush fact patterns, right? Say, hey, listen, guys, all of you listeners out there, come to me last minute all you want, but look out for this, right? We see this all the time, and you guys can, make your lives and our lives a lot better if we just had this one little problem resolved.
I think a lot of times it'll either deal with like title itself, like how title is being taken, and that's usually in conjunction with ownership of the property. So it's either a messed up entity or a weird trust situation, somebody's died, like that. And so it gets real sketchy, like, is this the right person that should be signing? And really making sure that you have the right parties and the right consents needed. Right. That's always like the biggest one that I think holds documents up, is when that happens.
The last thing you want is to have the wrong borrower listed on the note to your trust, right?
I can sign, and then turns out actually it's Kevin that's supposed to sign. And
and then that loan becomes no good, right?
Exactly.
So, right. Another question, she's asked, if same with from Christina as well, if you were not this amazing attorney, his or her words, if you were not this amazing attorney, what would be your next line of work? A little bit of background, because a lot of people don't know this about you.
It's true.
This isn't your first career, right?
It's not, but I also don't know that I would do that career now, having done this. So what Kevin is alluding to, so after I went to college, so I went to Boston College for undergrad, didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I very much appreciate education and teaching. And so I actually went to Tufts University and got a degree in teaching. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, did all of my, student teaching, got the certificates, did all of that, did that for a little while. And then I was like, nope. Original goal, go back to law school. That's what we have to do. And so now I'm here. But that's it. I don't know that I would do that, or if I did, it would be in a different context. Teaching
I can see you as a professor somewhere,
Yeah, because I don't think I could teach high school Spanish at this point. I have no desire to do that. But could I do it would be really cool to teach some random elective class on, what we do. That would be really cool. Or, just general business skills, that kind of stuff. That would be really cool. Also, from working with our clients, I think property management generally is fascinating, and, just investing in real estate. And so it's something that, I hope that I have more time to learn about, on that end, acquisitions and management and that kind of thing, outside of the loan context. That would be also very interesting to me. So Probably some mesh of all of the above.
So you'd be our clients, our client's ideal target. Become a real estate investor.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So this question is from Ari Strite from Strite Lending.
Oh, God.
He made me say this. Ari Strite, honorary partner at Gerasi Law Firm. And a good friend of the firm and yourself. Well, he actually asked the question about, like, you've been in the industry 5 years now, but you've been really, really entrenched, right? You've been working closely with, all types of clients for the past 5 years, very in the weeds, and also out there networking with them at the events and conferences and all that great stuff. So looking back, right, what's your biggest takeaway from your time working in the private lending industry?
Biggest takeaway. Oh my God.
Yeah. Very general question. Thanks, Ari.
Yeah. You're fired as honorary managing partner, as far as I'm concerned. Actually, I really think it sounds stupid, but it's the general life skills that I've gained through this. Obviously, going through life and school and, all of that, you take out loans. So, you're doing all this stuff. I never really understood what that meant until I got into this, and then thinking about investments and all of that. And just really taking, okay, we work with lenders who make loans secured by real property for the most part. Cool. But taking those investment strategies and applying them to your life about, the actual decisions that you're making to be financially smart, I think I've really learned a lot from that. And that's probably the biggest takeaway that I have is
right.
That literal life skills that
it is shocking that when we get new people from law school, they don't really understand how interest works.
Right.
Thankfully, our space, it's not complicated. It's fixed interest. We don't have compounding or anything like that, but still.
Right. And I really didn't either. It's something that, I have a loan. I had to take out student loans. Everybody's got loans, I feel like. But, you don't really think about what that means. And it's like, I should repay this one and not this one, and why? Or not repay them, but pay this one down faster than the other one, and why? Or I need to refinance this one because of this reason, and just being strategic about that. It's really interesting how much this job has really helped me figure out life skills in addition.
Right. Basic financial skills that
exactly
we're supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
I think my generation was probably the last one to learn this in school. We had a class on this when I was in high school, but I think they stopped teaching it in schools.
I'm going to interrupt. You are in my generation. You are also a millennial.
They taught it to me in school. They taught us the basics, right? This is what interest is. This is what balancing a checkbook. We still had checkbooks back then. And, it was like very simple financial basics. This is what a savings account is. This is what a retirement account is. But then even my brother doesn't really understand it. And I'm really shocked to find that a lot of our new attorneys and, they have great legal minds, but and so, me too. I mean, I have never seen so many ways to invest in real estate since I joined this firm. And it's a vast, vast spectrum of investments. All right. So let's ask some fun questions now, because we got some really good ones here. So let's take a look here. All right. That's actually a really good one. This is a question from Sarah and Reka over at Rodeo Lending, aka Westridge Lending. Who is someone you've always looked up to? You, Melissa, always looked up to?
I mean, I guess this depends on the time of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great question. Of course, I asked this. I think probably, now it's definitely, the other partners here, right? Especially I've worked with Kevin. Kevin is, everybody here listening knows Kevin, his skills with business development, I've always very much looked up to that, to try to learn that. And, that
come on.
strategy.
Come on.
No, it's true. And then, then I have Nima here, who's honestly one of the smarter people that I've ever known, and is able to navigate different situations and really understand that clearly and concisely and convey that information to clients. It's things that like, I know that sounds stupid, but like you guys are really people that I look up to as far as mentors. But I guess throughout my life, it's just like a really hard question.
Take your time. We got all day.
I know. I'm like trying to think. I feel like everybody's got like, oh yeah, it's like my great uncle Sam or something. And I can't think of that. But it's probably just a combination of like the people in my life. I even look up to my younger sister. She's crushing it at med school. She was always a crazy good athlete. Like, I just like look up to that kind of motivation and drive. I have other friends as well that have just like shown that kind of like determination. And it's really more about that rather than a single person that I would.
Well, let's expand on that, because it's something that I've always admired about you in that respect. Like you actually inquire about things that you're curious about, right? Like, I want to know more about that. Like you seem to have, like, how like for a lot of folks that love to learn and want to get out there and do more stuff like that. Like, what's one of the things they can do? Because you're very active in doing that. Hey, you're very vocal in doing that. Like, hey, I want to learn how to do that, or hey, that's pretty cool. Can you tell me more about that? I've always admired that kind of, I don't know how the word is, drive or which is willingness to ask. But was there something in your life that got you to start doing that? Because it's not easy for a lot of people, right? Whether it's ego or just lack of curiosity or just shyness, right?
I think it probably really started in college, and there's no real like point when that happened, but I just kind of realized, I was like, you know what, there is no stupid question. Like, yeah, of course, like there are dumb questions, but at the end of the day, it's like, if I don't understand something, even if I'm the only person in that class or that room or whatever that doesn't understand it, I'm still going to ask. Like, I don't know. So it was really like a realization that like I had to take ownership of what I knew. And if I wanted to succeed and be successful, I had to make sure that I truly understood what was happening. And so I guess I don't settle with answers. Like if somebody just told me, oh yeah, it's this, I want to know why it's that. And if it conflicts with something else that I know, I want to understand how those work together so that it makes sense in my brain. Like definitely happened like midway through college where it was like, oh no, like
you weren't satisfied with just the answer they gave you because it didn't register up here, right?
Exactly. Like there was a disconnect, like I had to understand a little bit more in depth and that way I would understand. Like I even remember it in law school, we were, you'll laugh. It was in property class when we're dealing with the rule against perpetuity.
Oh God.
It's awful. And people were just making an assumption. And I was like, I don't understand what the assumption is. And I don't even remember what the situation was. But as soon as they said it, it was very obvious on its face. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't thinking of that. Right. And so if I hadn't known that, I never would have remembered it. I never would have understood it. I never would have been able to explain it. And so for me, I always want to be able to do those things. And if I can't, take something that you're teaching me and spit it back out in my own words, then I'm not good enough or I don't know it well enough to walk away from you and say I'm content with that answer.
Right. And I think that's exactly it. Like from a kind of like a perspective of trying to learn how to do this more, or having that it's a legitimate like almost curiosity. Like if it doesn't make sense to me, I have to keep. It's a persistence thing too. And a lot of folks, we tell them something and then they just kind of assume or believe it, and they just kind of think, okay, it's fine, and then they don't go further because they don't truly understand it, but they just accept it. And so that's one thing that I've seen you use in learning new topics, both legal practice related, but also soft skills. But I see it also with your team members, and you push the issue with them. Do you understand this? And so and that's why you see a lot of young attorneys learn so much at our firm. We have a lot of young attorneys at our firm coming out right out of law school, and they got a lot of opportunities to learn from people like you. So
I think a lot of that too. I mean, even taking like that teaching degree back into play, obviously I'm not a teacher, but it's something, I learned a lot of skills in that. And one of them, especially teaching high school Spanish, you're teaching, it's a Spanish 1 or 2 class. Like the entire class is in Spanish. And so at the end I'd be like, ¿Qué dije? What did I say? And I'd wait to make sure that they actually understood. And I would sometimes direct it to people to be like, did you actually understand what we're doing? And I really think that, like even now with my team members, like if I'm picking up that they're like, oh yeah, like I get it. And I'm like, do you get it?
Right.
I want to make sure, because at the end of the day, you're better off if you really truly understand. And then, it saves time down the line, because then you know that. And next time you ask the question, it'll be more complex rather than this.
Right. Another question from Sarah and Reka. Because you're from the East Coast, what do you miss most about the East Coast?
A lot of things.
You're going home soon, aren't you? Aren't you going home soon?
Oh, I was supposed to, but COVID.
Yeah.
I really hope I can next fall. I miss a lot of things about the East Coast. I think in my ideal life, I would split time between here and there, because I can't imagine not living here in California. But I also, I am so homesick, especially, I'm from Massachusetts. I lived in Boston for a long time. I really miss that city. I think the biggest thing is probably, first, the seasons. Fall is like my favorite season, and we get that a little bit here, but not really. And, the foliage and the weather, I know it sounds really basic, but I miss that so much. And then also, being from Boston, big sports city, and that passion and culture of the city, like you don't really get that in Orange County. Nobody really cares about that stuff, versus it's a very unifying thing back there.
It's not a citywide here. You have a lot of bandwagoners, and it is a big part of the LA scene, but it's still not as intense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, and I just I miss that part of being back home, And of course, my grandma's cooking. I miss that quite a bit.
We talk about that a lot. Yes. Melissa and I have long conversations about Italian American cuisine and how you can't find good pasta in California. Actually, what's the pasta that you're looking for? So maybe some of our listeners can help you out here. What's it called?
It's like fusilli lunghi. So it's like a long fusilli. It's like 2 feet long. It's delicious. My grandma literally sends me a care package every other month and just loads it up with pasta.
Nice. So for those of you guys who are listening in, if you want to get brownie points from Melissa, you send her that pasta. All right, so let's have a little fun with this now. So she I actually really like this question. It's from Christina Adrixa. What energizes you outside of work? So we'll get a little personal now.
No, it's totally fine. So in the last year and a half or so, I've discovered exercising and working out. It was never something that I did, and I didn't understand it. But, as many people know, as you are on your path to, a career and partnership or whatever that career goal is, you tend to not take care of yourself. And so, I just felt about a year and a half ago, I was like, I really have to take some time for me outside of work to focus on being healthy. And so, I started working out, I do HIIT training every morning. I've recently started waking up at 4:45 to do that. So that's great. Wonderful start to my day. I can deadlift my weight now, which is insane. It's really cool.
This is not something that I expected out of you. I tell you that much. No. I was like, I figured you were gonna maybe go on the treadmill a little bit and then lift a little bit of weights and be done. But all of a sudden, I hear about you're joining a crazy it sounds like a CrossFit gym. I was like, mm-hmm. Leave it to Melissa to go from 0 to 11 and
No, it's cool. And it's it's fun. I like being the person. It's probably just because I've been a teacher's pet my entire life, but I like it when the coaches like me. So I have something to prove to them every single day. Right. I can do that thing. I'm going to be the best. And
those HIIT gyms are a little more social too, right? So it's not like a boring by yourself at the gym.
Yeah, they're classes and all that. So it's really nice. So that's been a really great thing. I literally go every single day, every single morning. It really helps get that mental clarity. It's one of the few times where I don't think about work, or if I do, it's almost like I let it go. And then afterwards, I just have like an idea of how to deal with whatever the issue is. And so that's really cool to kind of have that separation and then be able to come back and with like renewed focus.
And you do in the morning. You're always a morning workout person?
Morning person. Yep. No, I can't do the evening workout. I tried and I was just like, this is weird. I just didn't care for it.
Have you ever had a leg day so bad where you can't walk so far?
Yeah. No, literally, this actually happened last week. We did a crazy leg workout and I was in pain for like 4 days. It was difficult to move around.
Don't fall down while you're walking. That's just a bad look. All right. So we got some would you rather questions. And I think this is actually interesting to ask because, it's kind of insightful as to how we view our lives and stuff like that. So, all right. So the one question, this is a good one. This is a really good one. So, because this is directly related to our jobs. All right. So would you rather this is from Sarah over at Rodeo. Would you rather do all of your loan docs on a typewriter for eternity or never be able to use a cell phone for the rest of time? This is hard. This is a hard question because I am addicted. I am addicted to this thing, right? I can't even see it. I can't live without this thing. Terrible at it.
That is a great question. Probably not the typewriter because then I wouldn't get anything done. Otherwise, you know what? Actually, I'll do them on a typewriter if that means I can charge hourly.
Yes, this is why you're partner.
No, that would be actually miserable. However, no, I think honestly, I'd probably get rid of the phone. I think there's other ways to like keep in touch and do things. Like I would figure that out. No, typewriting my loan documents.
As long as you got a laptop and internet, I mean, you can kind of make it work, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say that I have that ability.
Yeah, she never excluded laptops, right? So, okay, all right. We talked about how you're working out in the morning and that kind of stuff. And this is from Ari again. Question from Ari was, so this is about after work. All right. So I know you have some hobbies besides working out, right? Namely Disney fanatic here, people. So how do you blow off steam after your long 14-hour days? And by the way, for the audience, Melissa broke the record a few years ago of number of hours in a week. And so made us all want to just hang our heads in shame. So
not healthy.
Yeah, we were literally worried she's going to pass out at her desk. But after that long day of work, what do you do after work to blow off steam?
So, I mean, I live with my boyfriend, Mark. We've been together for almost 5 years. So he's always been a really great source of support and, and fun, which is nice. He's a lot more laid back than I am. So it helps me not be so crazy. And we have 2 little chihuahuas. They're very sweet. So I like to do things with them, like go on walks and the dog park and play with them and all of that. But otherwise, yeah, COVID has been sad for this, but we have Disney passes. We used to go in the evenings or on the weekends and can't do that anymore. And that's just tragic to me. But otherwise, we're big movie fans. So Disney movies, the Marvel movies, really excited, hoping Black Widow will come out soon. Very much looking forward to that for a year. But yeah, no, I think it's really a lot of that. I don't know. I guess maybe 5 years ago, I probably would have talked about going to bars and restaurants and stuff. And I'm just not as much into that. I've definitely become a homebody.
Well, haven't we all because of this? Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'm down for puzzles, games, all of that. I try to it's pretty rare for me to even just veg out though. I mean, I'm down to watch a movie, but it's not something where I'll just sit in front of the TV and just watch TV all day. I can't do that. So I'm always, even if I'm stuck at home, I'm trying to do something that's a little bit more mentally engaging, like puzzle or something to kind of I also very much love video games. I'm terrible at playing most of them, but I love watching other people play and helping with strategy and puzzles. Again, puzzles, big thing. But right now I'm in the middle of, I'm trying to finish the new Paper Mario on the Switch. And that's been really fun.
See, you went from like, I'm a boring homebody, but you're playing video games. See, it's okay, right? You're not an old lady yet, you know?
Pick up knitting.
Hey man, it's a life skill that, you know.
I know, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's a life skill that I've been trying to figure out, like, I don't know. My wife won't let me do it, but I was like, we have a sewing machine sitting around the house. I'm just like, I don't know how to use that thing. Mm-hmm. And if I knew how to use it, then I could fix my clothes, which I tear very often. So, but she won't let me learn how to use it. So she says, I'll do it for you. So, all right. So let's talk about this. This is a nice, fun question. You and I both love talking about travel. We've traveled a lot together to various conferences and places around the U.S. One time overseas to China together. That was a fun trip. Looking back on all the travel you've done in your life, you know, what was your most memorable travel destination first? And then I want to ask about, you know, other things too. So
can I have two answers? One work related and one not work related?
Yeah, why not?
So not work related, my junior year of college, that summer between junior and senior year, I lived in Madrid for that summer. That was a phenomenal experience. Like getting to know like language, culture. I lived with a family, like, you know, I had a metro pass and made my way around the city. I toured around, saw everything, met people, talked to people. It was just a wonderful experience to kind of, it'd be crazy to say like, oh yeah, I know all about Spain and everything, but like, it was so nice to just get immersed in the culture and just like feel.
How long were you living there for?
About 2.5 months.
Wow, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah, no, it was super fun, and like I said, like living with a family too. Like it was really cool to like kind of get to understand their routine and how like people from Spain live their lives.
Right, you're not just you're not a tourist. Yeah, exactly.
It felt like a little bit more personal, I guess. And you know, I just remember like the first week, like I forgot about the whole siesta thing and like tried to go out to the store and like everything. And I was like,
so for those of us who don't understand this, give us a little. So is that really a thing? Everyone just takes a nap in the middle of the day?
And it's not necessarily a nap, but people will just they're just not at work generally. Like my host mom was home at that time every day and then would go back to work until later in the evening. But then it would also end up meaning that like dinner was at like 9 or 10 p.m. So it was just like a weird, like the day just like grew. But it was nice because you had that rest in the middle to kind of get through it. And obviously
almost like 2 work days then almost. It's like you have a little break in between. All right.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
like obviously like those big chain stores and stuff like that, those are open during that time. But it was like if you wanted to hit up like a mom and pop store or a bookstore or a coffee shop, like up in the air. So it was really cool though. That was definitely one of the most memorable experiences that I've had. And it was the first time that I had really traveled alone for a long period of time. And that was just from a personal life thing and figuring out what I was comfortable with, what I wasn't. Like, It was a huge moment for me. And then work-wise, it was our trip to China, dude. That Shanghai trip was a blast.
That was a pretty good one. Fun. It was raining the entire time, but it was still dope.
We had so much fun. I helped Kevin navigate the metro there. He was panicked. It was great. Yeah.
She figured it out, and well, neither of us can read Chinese. And I had been to China before. I've been to Beijing before, but I was just completely confused. So
and we made it. We're alive.
And we made it. We survived. And we ended up actually having a really good time with some of our friends in the industry. And shout out to Eddie Wilson who invited us out. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good time. I actually got to see an old friend of mine from law school. He was in Shanghai at the time. So it was I thought that was a really cool trip, and it was really good. It was really interesting because for those of you who guys work with Melissa, you guys know this, but those of you who don't. So it's a long flight to China. It's about 12, 13 hour flight to China. So I can knock out on a plane like no one's business. I will pass out.
True.
While we're taking off. I was knockout, right? So basically I slept the whole way. It's a nighttime flight. Melissa cannot sleep on planes, so she decided to work for 11 out of 13 hours on the plane.
I got so much done because, you don't have cell service, so nobody was calling me. Like, my emails were spotty. So I was like, I can focus and get stuff done. It's great.
And this is why you're partner. These are the small things of why you're partner, and why I admire you so much, because I could never do that.
Kevin was literally like, "Yo, let's start drinking." Like, they came by and had champagne, and I was like, "I'm gonna work."
Right. Terrible example. Terrible. I'm a terrible example. Yeah.
It was fun.
That was a really great trip. And what's really cool is doing what we do is we get to go all around the country, sometimes overseas, and see these great cities and hang out with our clients. And some of them know the areas better than we do. And we know Vegas at the back of our hands now because we go so often. But to me, it was that trip to Miami. That was fun. That was a good one. And it was good to see it because, Nemo went to law school out there, so he knew the area. One of our clients, Kenny, is based out there, so he took us out, and it was a really, really interesting, city. And learning more about on how the industry works out there was just a whole new perspective on things. So I really enjoyed that trip. It was like half the firm went, so that was also fun. All right, so another question is actually let's go back to lending a little bit, or industry related questions now, right? So one of the things that I want to ask is, you work with a ton of clients, right? So you have all types, right? So from mom and pop investor type lenders all the way to institutional grade, 100 employees type operations. Of the spectrum of clients that you've seen, what attributes would you say make a successful lender, right, to their business, right? You've seen them grow, you've seen them scale, you've seen them kill it, and they have these certain things, about their business. What do you think that is?
I think it's a few different things. The first one, especially in light of this pandemic, has been like an ability to kind of think on your feet and pivot really quickly. That is by far, one of the biggest things, because, the industry is always changing. What collateral is hot, what the loan type is that's hot, that's always going to be changing, and kind of like figuring out how to adapt. I think that's definitely a big part of it.
Being nimble.
Yeah, exactly. Being nimble. The other thing that I think is really important, and that, most of the people that I would say that are like enduring are the ones that are smart, right? And it's not to say that all, some of our clients are not smart, but it's the ones that are really going in and taking a little bit more time. Like I said, reaching out earlier, like bringing up questions and concerns, and not just trying to push a deal through for the sake of getting the deal done. We've worked with people like that, and that's fine. But it's like, it tends to be the ones that slow it down a little bit, think about it a little bit more, underwrite it a little bit more. I think those are the ones that tend to have, better success. I have several clients that I know that really underwrite their deals well and have, either no defaults or very few defaults. And, a couple of them, they have hundreds of loans out there. And while they may have started foreclosure, they never complete a foreclosure because it always repays or whatever it is. So,
well, let me ask you about that. So in our industry, it's fast, right? I mean, closings in our space are, I would say a day is fast, but a lot of clients, what time frame is being kind of deliberate? Just to give you a general time frame, like if I'm being deliberate with a loan package, right? Is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because I'm not there for that initial time, right? I'm not there at time of loan application. I'm just like, at the time where it's like, hey, we're good. We need docs right now. And so, for most of those deals, like I know that they're going fast. They're definitely 10 days or less that those are all happening, week or less, a couple days. But then, obviously the larger deals, the bigger commercial deals, which we haven't seen as many of right now, just because of the pandemic, nobody really needs commercial space. But, those deals take a longer time to underwrite. You have tenants that you need SNDAs for. You usually have a more complicated title structure. an entity structure. Like there's a lot more going on in those deals.
Environmental, that's also a big factor. Yeah.
So there's a lot more going on in those deals. And I say those are around longer because they're even on my desk longer, even though I'm still at that, oh my God, we're ready to go loan docs phase.
Right.
They're still on my desk for a week or two versus the others are on my desk for an afternoon. So
would you say on, I guess then being prepared then, so nimbleness and also on your other things is being prepared.
Yeah.
And being deliberate.
Yeah.
When it comes to how you're lending instead of as much of a cowboy approach. So let's just go.
And a lot of them will reach out to just be like, hey, am I doing this right? And like, it's always good to ask that question.
But that's a question that we don't get as often as we'd like, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's like, I don't know, like we might be, and that's a great answer. If I look at what you've done and you're doing it perfect, awesome. But 9 times out of 10, like that's probably not the case. And it's not to say that you're, not compliant or whatever, but you could always be doing something better. I don't think there's ever perfection, and there's always a way to simplify things. So, bring, like kind of just make that process a little easier or better, faster, whatever it means. And so, yeah.
So for the listeners out there, I think it's, if I sum that up, is like, not only just, it takes a level of humility to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
And being like, hey, I may have, 10, 20, 30 years of experience, but am I doing this right?
Yep.
Or from your perspective, what can I do better in this whole process of delivering the package to you guys for a loan doc order? And, I said before, we don't get that question as much as we'd like. And when we get that question, it's like we get energized because like, oh man, this client's really willing to listen, and also has that level of humility. And you get inspired because like I do. I'm like, this person can go very far with this kind of attitude, right? So that's really cool. Let's go internal now. So I also asked some of your teammates, and we got some questions from them. And one question that kind of aligns along the way, it's a little more personal, but still not so much, comes from the illustrious Nima. He asked, who or what inspires you? Very, very broad, very general. Thank you, Nima. But inspiration is something that people need, right? Motivation and inspiration. So
the answer to this question that Nima would like to hear is
him. But no, we don't say those kind of things here.
I mean, I guess, but otherwise it's really like, this passion for like learning and growing. Like, I don't know. I think about sometimes like, if I knew it all and I worked a 9 to 5 or whatever, I think I would just literally go crazy. I just don't know what I would do with myself and with that time. Like it's probably bad in a lot of ways, but I really define myself by what I do for a living and being successful and great at that and knowing that there's always a way to improve. And so I don't know if that's really inspiration, but it's like something that I am always striving for.
Well, it's a motivation, right? Yeah, it's definitely a motivation.
Exactly. And so I think for me, that's always the driving force behind what I do is like, okay, like I will never be perfect at anything, but I can certainly do my best to try to get there and to keep pushing. So
do you take it like year to year saying, I want to learn how to do this year or something like that? Or is it more like, is it just constantly always just looking to learn new things, or how do you take it on?
I think it's a little bit of both. For example, like earlier this year, we have like a competencies chart that we have on our team to be like, hey, do you know how to do this? To kind of help evaluate which attorneys know how to do what, to be like, oh, this person needs to be trained on this, or they could train somebody else, like that kind of deal. And so I always kind of look at that, and there are some things on there, 3 years ago where I was like, I don't even know what that is, and then it gets to a point where I'm like, oh, I should learn what that is,
right.
and kind of like adding to that. And so being really intentional about, oh, I don't know anything about, I don't know, like broker agreements. Like, let me go learn about broker agreements. What do I have to know? and just trying to figure that out. And then it also comes down to sometimes like some, the industry changes or things that are important change. And so I want to learn about that. So,
right. I remember you came to me and asked me like, what's the deal with all these funds and how they work? And
yeah,
it was kind of surprising because I was like, you don't need to know this kind of stuff. Like, there's no reason why you need to know this, but
it's helpful to, I think, understand the bigger picture. Right. I'm not going to draft a mortgage fund, but it's really interesting and helpful to like think about it, to be like, oh, I understand why they're investing this way, to also understand the loan origination side of why they've taken certain actions or decisions. Like even, back when like for CLOs, I didn't really know what that was. And so, but I knew a lot of clients were doing that. And so I'd be like, hey, like, what is this? Like, how do I just want to know enough. I don't need to do the thing, but I want to know enough that if people are talking about this, I know what's going on and I could contribute to that conversation.
Right. And it's really annoying when you have people who already know it very well and kind of oversimplify it. So you really want to get into it. You want to learn it, right? And I've learned that about you over the years because I have the approach of oversimplifying concepts for me to learn them better. And when I know it well, I just kind of like, oh, it's like this, and then you get that look on your face like, no, I need to know more about that. That's not enough information. And that goes to another good question from Nima: is who annoys you more, Nima, Kevin, or Anthony? And by the way, you should see our partner meetings, for listeners. It's like the Three Stooges, like Nima, me, and Anthony can get a little bit stupid at times.
And then Dennis is there trying to be like the moderator.
Right.
Newbie.
Right. But who annoys you? Who annoys you more? Because you spend the most time with Nima. So I mean, there's a high likelihood of annoyance there. So.
Oh yeah. So also, I'm clearly in the office right now. There's only like 3 of us here. I really like it to kind of have separation from work at home. I know a lot of people do that, and I feel badly for them because this has been super beneficial for me to be productive and stay focused during this time. And so I actually I'm working in Nima's office because just to like save space and energy, I feel like, so we don't have to turn on all the lights and heating and all of that nonsense in the other building. There are times where we want to kill each other, and it's amazing that a murder.
I don't understand why you do it. I don't know. I still don't understand because you could still sit in this room. You could sit with.
It's lonely because there's nobody here. It's
this
us
is true.
and Tay. Like
it's a ghost town. For our audience out there, we have 2 buildings. Both are about 5,000 square feet ish, 6,000 square feet ish. They're empty. It's just Melissa, Nima, and Tay, the 3 of them. That's it.
And so it's like, I don't want to be all by myself. Like, it's creepy. There's nobody here, obviously. But like, I don't know, there's weird noises in the building. And I'm like, no, I just want to be.
I get that. But I'm sure it can be a lot.
But it's also, the benefit of it is, yes, we get on each other's nerves and we yell at each other a lot. However, I get to learn a lot still too, because obviously, he's years ahead of me in practice. I'll listen on his calls and the things that he's doing, and that I know that he wasn't doing, 5 years ago when he was at my skill level, right? And so it's like, oh, like this is a look ahead. Like this is what I have to look forward to, like to aspire to. These are the things I need to learn next, and kind of always like getting that. And so for me, that's also been really helpful to see that. So he probably annoys me the most. But
there you go, Nima. There you go. You win.
He's great. Wouldn't be here without him.
Well, that's interesting to talk about, though, because one of the things that I always tell folks in any industry, I guess you can call it, is have a mentor, have someone who can teach you and take an interest. And Nima's definitely been that for you. You work directly with him, and now you're taking over his department and you're learning from him. But looking forward into the future, and that's been part of your growth, right? Mm-hmm. And looking forward into the future for the law firm and for the organization as a whole, for Jurassic, what would you like to see us do to grow even further, right? Because and where do you see us going? Because we've grown, we've shrank, we've grown again. We had the pandemic. this firm is so dynamic over the years, and you've been instrumental in helping us grow, from a literally just a local kind of 4 or 5 attorney group to now we are, I don't even know how many people we have under our flag now, but where do you see us going? Where do you want us to go?
It's a great question. I would like to, obviously expand our team's, reach a little bit more. There are those clients that know of us, should be probably using us, but are stuck doing like whatever the thing is that they've currently got going on for their compliance and docs. And I would like to always keep expanding on that end. The thing that I think allowed our team in particular to be very successful was our automation efforts for documents.
Right.
Without, that software and all the work that we put into that to get that even working, we wouldn't be able to do what we do today. So I would like to see more of that firm-wide. I know that Kevin, your team is doing that a little bit, and it's like I just remember being so resistant at first when we started implementing.
Yeah, we were worried about robots taking our jobs. We still are.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh no, like this automation is just making it so that I can do more things and learn more things and spend more time doing cool things rather than like the rote work, And I would really like to see that more firm-wide, because I really think if you can do that, I think it's easier to grow and expand, because then rather than only focusing on doing that work, you can also spend a little bit more time, building a better template, getting more clients, that kind of thing. And so I'd really like to see that more on like a firm-wide level. I think that's the biggest thing that I'd like to see.
And where do you want to go over the next few years? Because this is a big question. You have a new title, been promoted. You're managing a whole department right now. That's not just department head, but also partner. So, where would you like to go? And where do you want to go going forward? There's a lot of things that we're going to be doing over the next few years. Mm-hmm. What do you, Melissa, want to be doing?
I think I love working with the clients that I work with. I've handed relationships off to other people in certain areas, but there are the few, and they know who they are, that I've retained on because I just simply love working with them. But I would like it to be at a point where, I have more of an ability to rope in new team members on them, only because I think, that's a benefit to everybody if there's more people that know how to service that client. Mm-hmm. And also really teaching more about client service to the younger attorneys. Right. I think that's a huge part of what's made me successful is, knowing how to understand when there's urgency, picking that up, and just really like doing your all for your client. That's a thing that you don't learn in law school, like that. Just general.
You learn the opposite in law school. You learn the opposite. Yeah.
And it's like, no, like our clients, like that's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, like you just got to do what you got to do to get them happy and make sure that the job gets done for them. So it's really, to me, I'd like to do a little bit more with that and like really teach that to our younger attorneys, because I think that's the number one skill, that you need to be successful. And I'd like to be more instrumental in that.
Right. And a lot of our clients, it's kind of funny because when you think about customer service, it's not, a lot law school teaches you to think like a lawyer, and that's really about it. You're not taught customer service. You're not taught business skills. You're not taught anything. Yeah. And so it's very frustrating to see, law students not understand they are paying money to us for a service.
Right. And without them, you wouldn't have a job.
Exactly. And it's simple. It's simple logic, right? But it's
lost on a lot of people. And it's true, like, because I didn't learn that in law school either, but I learned it very quick. I thankfully picked up on that very quickly here. But it's those kind of soft skills, those business skills, those client service skills that I really want to teach more people and kind of get that point across.
Absolutely. It's the kind of like the fundamental pillar at our firm, and I don't know about you, but why I've stuck around for so long. Like there's no law firm like this in that sense. Like the amount of prioritization over customer service, it doesn't exist anywhere else, and I've never seen it. So
No, I think I would honestly fail at a traditional law school, or not law school, law firm. The ones where it's like, oh, you have to go through this person to talk to that client. You can't even email that client. You can't even be CC'd on the email to the client. You have to. I just would die. Like I was chomping at the bit when I started to be like, I can do this. Like I can talk to them. Like, are these emails okay? Am I doing something stupid? No. Okay, let me at them.
Right.
I want to be in there talking to people and getting to know people. To be like through layers of security before you get to a client.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's red tape, right? And in bureaucracy, and I hate that too. And we've never been asked this question before by clients, but like a lot, they kind of expect it to be that way, but then they're surprised when they see an attorney reach out directly and I'm not on, or you're not on the email. And I've gotten comments once in a while and I tell them like, it doesn't matter who brought you to the law firm. The entire law firm is your resource. Right. And that was probably the biggest reason why I've been around for so long. I can't leave. I love that about our firm.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go into something a little more fun, and then we'll try. I want to get your thoughts on kind of the industry a little bit as a close, but a little bit more about you. So, first of all, because this is the kind of foundation. So, you will soon be a homeowner. I'm hearing, right? So, and you're making big strides in life. You got a big promotion. For those of you out there who don't know, she drives a fancy red sports car. Now you're going to be a homeowner. For Melissa in the next few years, what are the things that you want to be? What do you want to achieve? Like as a person, right? What do you want to be doing?
I know it's crazy because I thought the next big thing would be buying the house in a couple of years.
And you just did. You had to do it.
And it just happened. And I was like, oh, I guess.
In California, by the way, which is freaking expensive, but yeah.
It's really hard to say exactly because, like I said, I thought that would be the next big thing to look forward to. I really want to potentially do something where I can, especially with my grandparents, they were really, the biggest support in my life growing up. And it's they're older now, and it would be nice to either do something to feel like I've given back to them a little bit. And with, between seeing them more and maybe having them come out here for an extended period of time and building something so that happens smoothly. I mean, it's not a big event like buying a car or a house, but it's something that I very much want to. Yeah,
but that's kind of a big thing, right? Taking care of creating a situation where you can take care of your family.
Right.
It's a big deal. It's not something that, someone, young attorneys, you're still a young attorney. I'm still a young attorney. We don't usually think about, it's until way later in life. So that's really cool. No extra fancy sports car. No Lambo.
The new Corvette is beautiful, so maybe that. And I really like the M8, but my little baby 2 Series will have to do for now.
By the way, for the listeners, Melissa is one crazy driver. I was shocked. I was like, you're doing what? So Nima wanted to bring this out, so I might as well bring it up. Can you describe the way you drive for us out there? This is a point of contention amongst a lot of us. So I think you're an aggressive driver. Nima thinks you're an angry driver. Which one is it?
It's only angry if people don't move out of my way. No, I think I'm just aggressive. I'm not content. I don't understand how people are just content to just sit there and just go just drive. I'm like, we have places to go and things to do, things to get done.
And now your car can get there faster. So.
Yeah, and it's great. I live in Rancho Santa Margarita, and so for people that don't know, I basically take the toll road in every day, and there's this one corner, and it's the best. It's the highlight of my day. But if I don't get to take that corner the way that I want to, because terrible drivers can ruin my mornings. No, I think I'm just aggressive. I don't think
okay. It's okay. And you can do it. You have the car to do it. It's built for it.
Yeah, it was great.
It's all good. All right. So as a kind of a closing segment, I kind of want you to break out your crystal ball because you've been working in the industry 5 years now. You've seen it evolve over the past 5 years. We've told you kind of like, horror stories of the last recession as it pertains to our industry. You've seen this pandemic and its effect on the industry. So break out your crystal ball for our listeners. Where do you see our industry headed in the next year specifically?
Yeah, I think, it's going to be even more of a focus on the residential market, and obviously, business purpose, investment property, that kind of thing. We saw that a lot change during the pandemic, because, commercial space is either not being used or it's being used for limited purposes. So those kinds of loans are really going down. So I think it'll be more on the rent, or I guess rental property, but investment property side as far as residential properties. But I would be really interested to see what happens with commercial, because obviously at some point, not that the pandemic just like ends, but we'll be back to work. There's a vaccine rolling out, all of that. At some point, people will be using commercial space again. But I'm curious to see what that looks like, because I think at this point, most of us have figured out how to run a business remotely with people working at home. I think we figured out that online shopping is great. So it's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like when everything opens back up and you can really utilize the space. I don't know. I think that's like the next big question, and being creative with that and seeing what happens. And then I would assume, whatever the owners of those properties are doing to like kind of pivot and change their use, I would hope that lenders are also very quick to adapt to deal with that, on their end. And I'm just really excited to see what that looks like, and how we can help on that side.
Right. I think that's one of the things that we've heard of. I was on a podcast with some folks in the Carolinas, and there was a gentleman there discussing this. This was very early on in the pandemic, and they had pivot strategies to taking, what was it, like 3-star, like corporate or business travel hotels, and turning them into condos and apartments and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting move, and also office to residential conversion.
Yeah.
Considering, I'm sure a lot of people are revisiting their need for an office. Those in the audience, this is not real. I'm in my house, and she's at our office, but we're contemplating it too. We're thinking about
downsizing.
Yeah, we don't need all the space that we have right now. So it's interesting to see. That's a very good perspective on it, because where that's going to head is a big question mark. You're right. Yeah. Well, you know what? All we can do is wait and see, but hopefully, clients stay nimble and get prepared.
Yes.
Right. And we can help them from there. So, all right, Melissa. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Once again, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And for all of you listeners out there, please join, subscribe, smash that like button for us. And this podcast will be available on all platforms. Tune in next time for Lenders Lounge. And this was a great episode. Thank you, Melissa, once again. And we'll be coming to you with another episode soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.